You are listening to Mining Stock Education, where you'll learn from the top leaders in the natural resource sector and uncover quality mining investment opportunities.
But if you took some time and you actually looked at the legals, you would realize that it's so different than any other legal. So it was like this arbitrage that, I put I think 60 grand or something like that. And that turned into 5 million just because, of that huge arbitrage. So, that's a win. And it's an example of that there is plenty of other oracles out there. They might be in a different industry. They might be different special situation. The point is that if you go to these exchanges that nobody wants to look at, and you go and turn enough rocks to see what's under them, you might find some interesting opportunities that can change your life.
Welcome back to Mining Stock Education. Thank you for tuning in, and you're in for a treat today. I have a very unique guest, a guest that is very successful at speculating and investing in small cap stocks, not just mining stocks. In fact, he has a great disdain for mining stocks, which we'll also talk about, even though one junior mining stock made him a millionaire, which is kind of interesting. So we'll have that discussion. My guest today is Mariusz Skonieczny of microcapexplosions.com. Mariusz, thanks for joining me for the first time.
Yeah, thank you, Bill, very much for having me. It will be interesting. Let's get on with it.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's start with your journey. Why small caps? How'd you get investing in small caps?
It's simple. Small caps, very little competition. The game of investing is run really by big institutions, hedge funds, mutual funds, institutional players. They are in the business of assets under management. They just make small fee based on what they manage. So they are big, fat, with a lot of money, and they have to put that money somewhere. So they don't have time to mess around with small or micro cap stocks. They have to go after the big names, billion-dollar companies. They have no choice. Then the other players, obviously, is the retail. And so what do retail do? Well, they chase Bitcoin, GameStop, AMC. They want to give it to the man, and they want to squeeze the Wall Street, right, for shorting those names. They're busy with nonsense. As a result, who is left in those spaces that can go into microcap space? It's just not a lot of people. Not a lot of people even know the space exists. So it's simple as that. Fewer competition, probability is on your side if you choose the right stocks, of course.
So illiquidity is your friend in essence too, right? Because you're investing before the institutions.
Yeah, I mean, institutions need liquidity. They want liquidity. And I don't mind having very little liquidity because that keeps them away. And whatever keeps them away, I want to keep the smart people away. So I don't have a problem with liquidity, lack of liquidity, but then you have to pay the price for the lack of it, which is more volatility than usual.
So do you consider what you do speculation or investing? Because your bio says you're also in charge of classic value investors.
Yeah, classic value investors is kind of like a leftover website. I don't update it that much. I consider myself an investor because the kind of companies that I choose to invest in, I want to be an owner, a part of an owner, and I want to be part of their success. I don't really like, trading, short-term trading. I hate trading in general. Like the other day, I kid you not, I forgot the password to my brokerage account because it's been like 8 months since I made a trade. I like to, be with my companies for the good and the bad. If they have problems, I'm not going to just switch just because they have problems. Of course, if the problems are so huge that it changes the thesis, then of course I want to get out. But, I want to be an owner, which means I want to build wealth over the years.
So are you investing in people then essentially? Because we talk about them in mining stocks all the time. Basically, the smaller the company, more people matter. Talk about your due diligence as it relates to investing in people.
Well, let me just answer this. It's not just people and businesses. I really want to invest in businesses that are good, meaning that they have maybe recurring revenues or they have something protecting them. And of course, I do want to have good people behind it, but the quote that Warren Buffett said, invest in businesses that even an idiot can run because one day one will. I focus first on the business, and then I of course want to make sure that the people are okay. So I just wanted to clarify this. In terms of your next question, which was the due diligence, it's very important in that space because let's face it, it is a more riskier space. It is, I would say, 80% of the companies in the microcap space, I wouldn't touch them myself because they don't fit my criteria. They might not have revenues, or they might just have a promise. I don't invest in promises. I want to see revenues. I want to see clients. So that eliminates about 80% of companies out there. And I don't want to do pharma. We'll discuss the mining space later. I try to stay away from that. I want real businesses. So then how do I find out to make sure that they are for real? I get on the phone. And I do what's called a scuttlebutt. I call their customers. I call their employees, former employees. I'll probably get every board member on the phone, even the former board members on the phone, to see if they're for real. If I talk to the customers, I want to know why you're buying from them. What kind of problem is the company solving for you? Why aren't you buying from the competitor? How sticky are you? Is it easy for you to switch from one provider to another? Then I do the same with board members. Why are you part of the company? Why are you backing them? How did you become a member? Then I try to research employees. Why do you work there? What's so special about it? Or former employees. Why did you leave? Is the CEO a crazy man, or is he an honest man? Tell me all the dirt, because I want to know. I open the question like this. Look, I'm about to put a lot of money into this company and I don't want to lose it. So tell me all the dirt that I need to know so that I can decide if the dirt is important or not. And then after you do this kind of work, then you know if the company is for real. You know if they have something special or not. And and I'm not looking for a perfect company. Okay, I'm not. I'm just looking for, I want to know what I want to own. I just want to know the good, the bad, and the ugly. And then I can decide if this is the story or an opportunity to be involved in.
So a scuttlebutt such as you describe, that's a lot of work. But I've also heard you talk about how you vet or kind of filter through hundreds of small cap companies. I'm assuming you have like a broader or filter before you'll take all that time and effort to do a specific scuttlebutt on a company.
Yeah, so like let's give you an example of Canadian Stock Exchange, which is the exchange that they call it for entrepreneurs. There's about 700 or 800 companies there. I just went through every single one. Look at their website, look at their financials. If it has no revenues, probably not. But I can tell right away from the website, is this even a company that I want to get involved? Because I've done this for a long time, and I kind of know if a company has recurring revenues, if a company is going to have low margins. I mean, I can tell right away if they're producing some kind of gadget, electric gadget that's going to take you to the moon. Probably I would not be interested.
So what sector are you interested the most in? Mining obviously is not your favorite, but of the sectors within microcaps, what do you gravitate to the most?
I like the companies that have recurring revenues so that every January they don't start from zero. Like the companies that, provide software as a service, high margins. Those kinds of companies are my favorite.
But you're looking for companies that are missing a key catalyst or element, and then you get in as an investor before that key catalyst or element. Would that be accurate with how you seek out these opportunities?
I want companies that have the potential, that have a lot of room for growth, and that maybe sometime in the future they will graduate to NASDAQ because whether it's on the Canadian Stock Exchange or TSXV, for example, or even OTC. Let's subtract the OTC. On the Canadian Stock Exchange, how was the TSXV formed? It was formed as a merger of, I believe, 3 or 4 different exchanges. One was focused on mining, one was focused on oil and gas, something else, and then there was a technology. So I would say a lot of people on TSXV, they are interested in the kind of place that they want to be in mining. They want to be in oil, gas. They want to be in cannabis. They don't really care too much about technology. They don't really care too much about like regular companies. They are looking for 10, 20, 100 baggers. So they don't, I feel like they don't put much effort into understanding them. And that's where I feel like I can come in and I can find those companies. And when they do go to NASDAQ, because either they uplist to NASDAQ or maybe they become big enough to be on NASDAQ, that's when I feel like they will be more appreciated, because NASDAQ, does appreciate those kinds of companies more than TSXV.
So what's your thoughts on putting all your eggs in one basket? Do you like to bet big on one particular name, or how do you spread the risk around?
Well, the quote, concentrate to get rich, diversify to stay rich. I am more in the transition now where I would like to be more diversified. So I am kind of progressively doing this. But, 5 years ago, I was more concentrated than I would like right now. So I would say it just depends on where you are in your wealth level, and also the risk appetite and how much conviction you have in certain ideas. I mean, certain stocks that I'm in, I have such huge conviction in them. I don't mind putting more money into them. But even now, with that being said, I'm like, I don't want to get wiped out, because you never know. Like, you think you know everything, and then there's this surprise. And I'm sure you know this more than anybody else, what surprises feel like.
That's right. Well, Rick, quote you just said and what you're doing, Rick Rule said, the money I invest with now, I made speculating years ago. So that's how I view mining stocks too. It is supercharged to your net worth if you can do it right. But of course, there's losses along the way. So let's talk mining stocks. The YouTube algorithm keeps feeding me all of your YouTube videos about how you hate this company and how you lost money on this company. And so I've watched, 8, 9 of your videos about how horrible mining stocks are. So just share with my audience, if you could, in a PG-13 or less way, why you have disdain for mining stocks.
Well, look, I used to love them. I wrote 2 books on mining, the gold production from beginning to end, and how gold companies finance themselves. I've been involved long enough that what I've seen in this space is like, wow, I didn't think such surprises or mess ups were even possible. You have a situation from, we have a deposit and it's like, oops, our concession is being taken away. Or we thought we had 2 million ounces in the ground and we only have 50. The costs are going to be $11 per silver ounce, and oops, they're 40. It's a tough business. It's a really tough business. But you're absolutely right that, look, that space changed my life. Okay, it made me a millionaire because of Oracle Resource, and I would have never found Oracle Resource if it wasn't for all the pain that I went through. But I made those videos because, like, you're never going to stop people from wanting to speculate and wanting to get rich. But hey, go and at least educate yourself. Like, go and get my books, watch the video series, go to MiningStockEducation.com. Like, come on, go and educate yourself. Like, know the risk, and then, speculate based on that. That's like my message, But for me, where I am right now with my wealth level, kind of like what you said about Rick Rule, I made the money speculating. Like, I don't want to lose it. I want to protect it. So I'm kind of, I would say, I don't want to say that I'm never going to do a mining deal, because if something really interesting comes up, I might put money into it, but it's not going to be like a huge portion of my net worth, So
Mariusz, a couple of thoughts as I watch those videos. I'm thinking, man, I agree with like virtually everything you're saying in terms of the CEO promises one thing and it doesn't come through. And even CEOs that I like, that I write 6-figure checks into private placements, it doesn't always turn out well for me. And then I try to assess, though, to be fair to them. I'm thinking, if I was the CEO, was this within their control? Like, if the government takes away their permit, if they did everything right, then should I be blaming the CEO, or it is what it is, or they have some geological disaster that was unforeseeable? I mean, you lifted up a lot of the promises in those videos that the CEOs made that clearly didn't get fulfilled. You did a good job documenting it. You played their own words back and said, they said this, the opposite happened. I mean, but just to be fair to the CEOs, shouldn't you also break down perhaps like what was within their realm of control and what wasn't?
Yeah, look, to be clear, I don't think they're bad people. I've talked to a lot of them. I had conversations. I'm sure that they have to decide what's information, what's in front of them. I don't blame a single one. I mean, I saw one CEO during my career that was truly a crook, but I do think that the other people were honest people, good people, and wanted to make money. And the things that happened were just completely out of their control, and that's what makes this business so tough, because I know for a fact the kind of due diligence that you do, because we were kind of involved in a semi-due diligence on one company. I mean, you take it apart, you want to make sure there's no fraud. So I know you do a lot of work on that front. And I know that the people that run these companies do a lot of work. And then boom, something unexpected happens. Like for example, I just did a video on Gato Silver. All these great people involved, Rick Rule, Thomas Kaplan, the guy that runs the company, 40 years of experience. And then, oops, an error in the 43101 or maybe some other report. We don't have as much as we thought we did. And someone left a comment on my YouTube saying, well, but it wasn't his fault. Yeah, I know. I'm not saying it was his fault. It's just this combination of, this is a tough business. This is a tough business. It's a capital intensive business. It's business filled with, problems. And if you are involved in an opportunity that they actually solved the problem and delivered on the promises, oh my God, it changes your life. But just be aware of it, that this is not the kind of business that they say, we're going to have costs, let's say on gold, we're going to have costs of $1,000 production. It's like, you have to understand what the result of these costs are. It's like, how much does it cost to process a ton of ore? And it's not like they can just pull out a number. It's a result of all these studies, and this can change. If the grade is just a little bit different, if the recoveries are a little bit different, or if they don't have just a little bit less what they thought, the whole situation changes, and you might say, oops, the costs are $2,500. And then investors are like, oh, the CEO is an idiot, he didn't deliver. It's more complicated than that. It's like, yes, you can, if you're uneducated about it, you can bash and cuss the CEO. But I don't think he lied. He relied on a certain information. It's like, just realize that the business is tough and position yourself accordingly.
Yeah, that was another question I had for you, because you're looking at the microcap sphere a lot wider than I am. Did you think that the mining stocks in particular attracted, the scum of the sector, or a lesser degree of honesty just by the nature of the mining business? That was a question I had.
No, I don't. I think this used to be a problem in the past. That's why Vancouver, they used to call Scamcouver. I don't think so. I truly think that these guys want the best. They're honest, and I don't think they're lying to you. I never really called these people on a lie. It's just the circumstances, it's again, going back to the quote, I want to buy businesses that even an idiot can run. And here it's like, be careful to invest in businesses that even a genius has a problem to run.
No, that's a great point. So tell us about your winner for my listeners that aren't familiar with that junior miner that made you a millionaire. Talk to us about how, specifically, I'm interested in the due diligence process and how you uncovered the potential before everybody else saw it.
Okay, so that one was a company that was involved with Gold Group Mining. I owned Gold Group Mining, and Gold Group Mining bought a property from Oracle. And that's how Oracle came on my radar. And also, they happen to share the same office. And apparently, it's typical in Canada to save money. These juniors kind of have shared office. So that's how I got to know them. And I just kind of kept in touch with them for months, because I would get the scoop on what Gold Group was doing. And I would call Oracle, hey, what's going on? And then eventually I kind of got to know them. And then I learned that they were involved in some kind of copper legal situation. And I didn't put too much thought into it. And then one day I saw that the stock was started to move from like 1 penny to 2 or 3 pennies. And then I saw the CEO was buying, and I started researching it. And then I found this website that had their entity name, Xochipala Gold. And it had this whole thing about Santa Tomas copper project. And I started reading all these legal documents. And I was like, wow, this seems like a big project. And it was even included in geological books for students. So I'm like, okay, this is a monster. And then, I called the company, and of course they confirmed that they're involved in it and that there's this legal situation. They're going to roll their interest into this. And I was like,
what's the market cap at this point?
It was like $3 million. And I looked at this property. I'm like, this property is worth $500 million. Your market cap is $3 million. Like, are you like joking? And they were like, no. So then I started researching it even more, and then bought the shares, of course, as much as I could. But what was interesting about this situation is that, you see, Santa Tomas was sold from a Mexican guy to a crook in 2000 when price of copper was like so low. And that crook didn't pay for the property. So what happened is that Oracle came in and said, look, we're going to solve your legal problems and we're going to earn 50% interest in the property for doing that. And then if we drill in the future and reconfirm the historical results, then we will, dilute you and we will earn more interest in the property. And then, they won the legal problem, but it was complicated because it was in 3 different jurisdictions: in Bahamas, Mexico, which is where it is located, and also in Arizona, because the entity that was the crook was in Arizona. And for me, the biggest selling point was that they already won in Bahamas, but Mexico wasn't recognizing that win. But there was another lawsuit going on in Arizona, which was, it was crazy because the 2 entities that were fighting, Oracle owned both of those entities. And the lawsuit in Arizona was about foreclosing or receivership of the other entity. And I'm like, if they win in Arizona, they own both parties. They cancel all the lawsuits and the problem goes away. So I started contacting the court in Arizona, and I was buying documents directly from the court. Like every day when they popped something up, I would call. It would cost me like $2 to buy the document. And I called, I even spoke to the judge on the phone about the case. And what I realized is that there was 0 probability that Oracle was going to lose, like complete 0. And I'm not even a lawyer. It was so obvious. The other party did something. The judge was like, nope, you're stupid. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. And then the other party was just like a car mechanic and a nurse. So I was like, it's just a matter of time before they foreclose this, get 2 entities, and they're gonna just, if Mexico doesn't recognize or register the title to the proper entity, it's just gonna go away. So when I was buying those documents, I was even uploading them to the website for people to see. Like, look, there's just no way. And I was getting these documents before the management was. I was actually telling the management how the lawsuit was going in Arizona, because, I would get the documents like immediately, and, the lawyers take forever to give it to them. So they would like get it from me. But it was just an example that, nobody was paying attention. It was too small. The company was too small for hedge funds to go. It was on TSX Venture. The mining specific resource companies, they were not really interested in display because they don't want to get involved in the legal situation, because we all know that the legals take forever and you never know. But if you took some time and you actually looked at the legals, you would realize that it's so different than any other legal. So it was like this arbitrage that, I put I think 60 grand or something like that. And that turned into 5 million just because, of that huge arbitrage. So, that's a win. And it's an example of that there is plenty of other oracles out there. They might be in a different industry. They might be different special situation. The point is that if you go to these exchanges that nobody wants to look at, and you go and turn enough rocks to see what's under them, you might find some interesting opportunities that can change your life. And that could be very low risk in compared to other things that, you have available.
So Mariusz, that's very inspirational. Just the due diligence. Okay, you're just a guy in your office, in your home, I suppose, and you're calling a judge in Mexico, right? Am I understanding?
No, in Arizona. It was a judge in Arizona. Can you imagine if I spoke Spanish?
Right. You'd be calling people in Mexico, doing your due diligence?
Of course. Well, that's what the company told me. It's like, I'm glad. They were like, we're glad you don't speak Spanish because we don't know who we would call.
But basically you wanted it more than the next guy. So the arbitrage you're speaking of, as I see it, and Rick Rule talks about this, is the knowledge arbitrage. Because we're talking about small caps, nobody cares about it. There's a little legal uncertainty. You were willing to dig into it. You saw the geological value, which one day could be realized in the market, but there was this hurdle. You researched and said, this hurdle's coming down. I mean, like that.
Well, that geological picture was that this was a deposit that already had a feasibility study on it years ago, based on historical holes. So even though those holes were done 20 years ago, they are not 43-1 compliant. I had some comfort because it's like, okay, if it reached feasibility study in the past and they drilled very shallow, they didn't drill deep enough, then I was like, they included in geological books, people get excited about it. Like, it's probably going to reach that level again. So there was a lot of margin of safety, especially when the market cap was 3 million.
So for a resource stock, if you were ever to speculate in a junior resource stock, and I'm not trying to be an evangelist for mining stocks here, but I'm just trying to pick your brain, would it be a legal uncertainty play to where the geological value is established, such as Oracle, not a speculative exploration play, or even a producer, but then there's this opportunity for you to capitalize on this knowledge arbitrage more than another? Would that be the type of situation that would draw you into a mining stock again?
I don't know. I like to keep open mind. Like when I see something, I know that some investors like to have a checklist. Oh, it has to check this, and that. I like to keep it open. That's why when I do look at companies, I don't use screens. I don't use computer. I just want to look at everyone and see what's there, and so many times, as a suggestion for people, so many times what you see on the screen might not be the whole story. Like, pick up the phone and talk to the CEO. And yes, I know that the CEOs can be promotional and all this. That's where you later do your due diligence to make sure he's telling you the truth. But they can really cut your due diligence time in half or more, because they're going to tell you right away, like what is important and what's not, and who is better to teach you about the business, if not the CEO. I would just, get on the phone. Don't be afraid. Just get on the phone, call them. Just like say, sell me. Why do you think I should own this stock? Let them be promotional. Like, let them get you excited. I mean, this is what happened to me recently with my other company called Voxter, which is involved in the real estate space. I used to be a real estate appraiser. And I went through every single company on TSXV, which was like 3,000, I think. And I found this company called iLookAbout. Today it's Voxter. And they are, doing good things in the real estate appraisal space. When I looked at it at first, I was like, yeah, it's nice, but I'm not interested. And then when COVID came, I realized that the whole industry is going to change. And I called the CEO. He talked to me for 2 hours. He immediately sold me. I was like, yep, he's right. That's what's going to happen. And it's a 10-bagger since then, and it's going to be another 10-bagger from today's levels based on what's happening. But if I never picked up the phone and took to this CEO, I would have never got this opportunity.
And Mariusz, if I understand the evolution of your investments in your business, you didn't start off trying to form a network. You kind of just found some successful investments, put it online, and then a network kind of evolved from there. Is that right?
I'm not a good networker. Okay, like I'm just not. This whole social media and YouTube thing is great, because if I go to a networking event, like it's just such a waste of time for me. I'm not very good at schmoozing and drinking and all that. So this is so much better for me. And And you see, the thing is that when I see ideas promoted on Twitter or something like that, I'm usually not successful with ideas that somebody else gives me because they already pumped it to so many of their friends. By the time I get it, it's like, in 2 months, they're going to exit and I'm going to get crushed. I'm the best going directly to the source, directly to the exchange, finding interesting opportunities, calling the CEO out of blue, finding out what's going on. And as you know, with these smaller companies, the CEOs will talk to you. All of them will talk to you. It's not like this with the big. You think the CEO of Microsoft will talk to you? Like, not a chance. But those small companies, like, they're lonely. Nobody's calling them. You pick up the phone. They're like, they want to tell you all the good things about the business. And some people might say, well, what about inside information? Yeah, what about inside information? It's like when you're doing due diligence, you hear all kinds of stuff. Like, yeah, some of it is inside, some of it is not. But like, what are you going to do? You're talking on the phone. The guy is telling you all kinds of stuff, right? So when you do due diligence, you uncover all sorts of stuff. Some of the stuff you should know. Some of the stuff you should know. I mean, it's a gray area, but yeah.
Mariusz, your website, microcapexplosions.com. Thousands of resource investors are listening to us right now. Tell them what they can find there and what it has to offer.
It's pretty much my research, my portfolio from that microcap space. Interesting companies. I have full write-ups, why they are interesting, CEO interviews. We do live calls with the CEOs where the listeners can ask the tough questions, have their concerns. And from time to time, we raise money for these companies and we create our own catalyst. We, as a group, we have about 300 members. As a group, we raised close to $25 million over the last couple of years for 4 companies. So not too many people are aware of it, but you can create your own success like this. Because if a company needs money to acquire something or market, we can inject them with money. And then if they use this money properly, we can, we are our own catalyst and we can create our own success.
And you have to be an accredited investor to join. Is that right?
Yeah. No, not to join Microcap Explosions, but you have to be an accredited investor to be part of the private placements.
Excellent. Well, Mariusz, if you invest in a junior miner or find one you like, could I be one of the first people you tell? Or do I have to join Microcap Explosions first?
I think you would have a preferential treatment.
Okay. Hey, I appreciate that.
Be on the lookout on my next video within the next few days. Truly the right way to make money in mining. 10 ways to make money in mining. So I don't want to spoil what's in it, but be on the lookout for it.
I will look out for that. And I'm going to link to Mariusz's website below and his YouTube channel. Go check out his YouTube channel. He shares his thoughts. Many of them come raw. And so, Mariusz, you are an inspiration and very insightful what you shared today. And I hope you're an inspiration to my listeners, many of which are just beginning their journey in small caps, specifically mining stocks. And they aspire to be a millionaire and put 60 grand in at 3 cents and watch it go over $3. So thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me.